everyone, it's Jenny and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. Today's video is a pure and simple Q&A video. I'll be answering a bunch of questions that all of you sent me on YouTube and Instagram, and thank you again so much for sending through your questions. I appreciate all of you immensely, and just the care that you have for me and just the fact that you have stuck around through this journey and with me on this channel. If you're new here, I highly recommend checking out a different one of my videos and, you know, learning about my book recommendations and my book taste before you kind of commit to learning all of these ridiculous details about me, because honestly, I hope you're here for the book recommendations and not really for me. Regardless, I appreciate you coming along for the journey. So a lot of the questions that you guys sent me on YouTube and Instagram followed a lot of similar themes and topics, so I tried to group them together to give you a better update on what's going on with me and just answer them a little bit better. So we'll be starting with some basic life updates and things that I need to tell you, and then we'll go into just general things about my life, work-life balance. We'll go into my writing and other things that you had asked about, and then we'll go into my reading and like those kinds of things and content related things, and then we'll go into BookTube. So starting with life updates, I feel like there's a lot that I need to tell you guys. It's been a crazy several months for me. The last like 4 to 5 months have been just a ton of upheavals in my life, and I have 3 major life updates to tell you about. And that kind of feeds into the first question that a lot of you asked me. I think like 50% of the questions were just, how are you? Which I just appreciate so much, and it just speaks to the empathy and love and care that all of you embody, and I just appreciate you so much. How am I? I have not been great. Just to give you the cliff notes before I get into detail, I was diagnosed with not 1 but 2 mental disorders over the past 4 months, I think. And then I also went through a breakup in March. So I've been going through a bout of depression for almost a year now, and it was getting pretty bad. I was in a pretty dark tunnel, and I wasn't completely aware of my mental state and how it was affecting so many aspects of my life. And in the midst of that, I had sort of started therapy and then taken a break and then got back to it. And I had also signed up to be put on a wait list to be diagnosed with ADHD. So ADHD, if you don't know, is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or sometimes known as attention deficit disorder, ADD. I am by no means an expert on any of this stuff, so please don't use anything I say in this video as a way to diagnose yourself or someone else or anything like that, or as a source of like fact. It is just more of a way for me to just tell you what's going on for me and help you understand what I'm going through. So the ADHD, I kind of had a feeling that I had ADHD for quite a while. I was a very hyperactive child, and the ADHD type that I was diagnosed with is combined type, so it's both hyperactive and inattentive type, and a lot of those symptoms and aspects sort of had a really big effect on my life and the way that I was moving through it. And I learned a lot of coping mechanisms as I grew up. And as I got older though, my ADHD started to manifest more in the inattentive type. So I struggled to do a lot of things that were really easy for neurotypical people. And it was a very fascinating moment when I got diagnosed. I was crying. It was like a really big moment for me to just come to terms with the fact that like I had been trying to do things as if I was starting on the same level playing field as everyone else, when in fact my brain didn't have the ability to do things the same way as neurotypical people could without like medication or help or extra coping mechanisms or system. Although I had already developed a lot of coping mechanisms and symptoms, it was very validating to just get that diagnosis and give myself some grace for a lot of the things I just like was constantly blaming myself for. And I was also able to start medication. So I started stimulant medication, which is like the typical type of medication that they give for ADHD, because mine is quite severe. And I've been on that since February. That was kind of like the first moment this year, which like kind of shifted things. And then with that, I started weekly therapy as well, which really helped me in so many ways. And from there, I was starting to realize that the ADHD diagnosis wasn't completely explaining everything. So following that, in March, I went through a breakup. I had been with this person for 3 years. It was quite serious. So it was a pretty devastating moment for me. Generally, I just want to say like the breakup was amicable. Like this person isn't a bad person or anything. I wish them all the best, but I think it was just like a necessary step in this journey. And I think, you know, people come into your life for a season or a moment or for a long time, but they still leave a mark on you that can be good or bad. And it's just part of your story and part of your journey. So that kind of happened, and I went through a really tough time. And in the midst of that, I was starting to realize that I might have another mental disorder, and specifically bipolar disorder type 2. So I've been sort of diagnosed by my family doctor, my general practitioner. It is technically a diagnosis, and we're gonna start mood stabilizers, which is the general medication that they do for bipolar disorder. The reason I say sorta is because I'm still waiting on a psychiatrist referral to get like an official, accurate, and like detailed diagnosis. But that is the diagnosis that we're sort of operating on, and I think it's quite accurate given all of these symptoms and stuff, and it explains quite well a lot of my life. So bipolar disorder, if you don't know, involves very high highs and very low lows and switching between those. And then you do have periods where you're like in between, you're sort of normal-ish, you're normal, but those fluctuations of mood can be quite severe, and they can go from hypomania or mania. So in bipolar 1 disorder, it's mania. Bipolar 2 disorder, it's hypomania, which is like a less severe version of mania. And then there's the depressive episodes, the lows. And the one thing I do want to stress though is that a lot of these things are not just mental symptoms, they are also physical symptoms. So when I'm depressive, I am very often fatigued and tired, unable to do things. I have zero motivation. I can barely form thoughts, and I just overall can barely stay awake a lot of days. Whereas when I am hypomanic, I have all this energy. I am not sleeping. I can operate on like 3 hours of sleep. I am constantly restless and wanting to do every which way thing. And the differences between the two are just so staggering that when you switch between them, it can be very frightening. Overall, this is a not fun disorder to have, and it took a lot of coming to terms with that, but I think the label gave me a lot more comfort than sort of fear, I think, because I was able to explain so much of my life, where before I just felt like these were personality traits or there was something like deeply wrong with me. Overall, I just feel better now that I've learned more about myself, and I can now understand myself better. But I think the one big thing that has helped me through all of this has been weekly therapy, which is why I really want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is BetterHelp. So BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. My therapy journey actually started with BetterHelp. They were the service that was convenient and affordable for me at the time, and it really helped me understand the importance of therapy before I dove even deeper into it and started weekly therapy on my own. With BetterHelp, you can access a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, all you have to do is answer a few questions about your needs and preferences when it comes to therapy, and from there, BetterHelp will match you with a therapist from their network. One thing I really enjoy about BetterHelp is that you can contact your therapist and talk with them over text, chat, phone, or video call. You can talk to your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions for whenever is convenient for you, and just be really comfortable when having your session. Probably my favorite thing about BetterHelp is that if you ever don't like your therapist or don't feel that you are connecting with them, which is honestly really important. I love my therapist, and it's really important to me to connect with her. So with BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality that you would get in-office therapy, but with a more affordable price, more flexible hours, and with a therapist that is custom picked for you. So if you're interested in BetterHelp, I highly recommend checking them out. You can get 10% off your first month of BetterHelp using the link in my description, betterhelp.com/thisstoryaintover, BetterHelp, HELP.com/thisstoryaintover. I really think it's so worth it for you to check out BetterHelp, whether you think you're struggling or not. I think everyone honestly could use a little bit of therapy. It will help you understand your mind, your body, and your feelings a lot better, and understand your relationships a lot better, and overall will improve your life. Alrighty, moving on at last to the next question. A lot of you asked, how do I take care of my mental health, and how do I deal with difficulties with my mental health? The answer is pretty simple. It involves a lot of daily exercise. Exercising has been one of the biggest boons for me over the past several months. I go to the gym every morning, almost every morning. I go to pole dancing classes now, which has been a lot of fun. Shout out to Chloe Bunny. She is my muse. I love her, and seeing her post about pole was just so empowering, and it made me like take the jump to actually go to classes, and it's been the most fun thing like ever. I enjoy it so much, so I go to multiple classes in the evenings, and I think the important thing is that I have learned to prioritize exercise to ensure that my body is healthy so that my mind can be healthy as well. The second thing I would say is just learning to eat and sleep well, so being very careful what I put into my body. I have several digestive issues, so I'm already careful, but just trying to eat more healthy. And then sleeping well is just so important, especially when it comes to bipolar disorder. I think sleep can often be a trigger for an episode switch, and it can also be a symptom of an episode. So just ensuring that I'm like sleeping at at the same time and waking up at the same time and trying to put myself in the mood for sleep. So like turning on my diffuser and making sure I'm doing my skincare before I sleep, and all of these things have really helped. Also listening to a audiobook that you think has a calming voice or has a calming theme. One of the reasons I absolutely loved You Can't Be Serious by Cal Penn was because his voice was so calming for me at the time I read it, and it was actually quite comforting. And then of course the final thing that's really gonna help you with mental health is therapy. Like I will say it 1,000 times over. I did not just say it before because I had a sponsorship. Like I genuinely believe that therapy will help you so much if you are struggling with your mental health. I know it is a difficult thing to get when you don't have the resources for it, and you know, I am thanking every star that I made this, you know, bipolar realization, and I've gone through these difficult periods when I've had the money and resources and privilege to be able to go to therapy. But if this had happened to me like 5-10 years ago, I don't know how I would have managed, because a lot of these things require money and privilege. So I do acknowledge that, but I think if there's a way for you to find a way to get therapy, I highly recommend it. Question number 3 is one that I got a lot, and I've been meaning to talk about this for a while now. The question was, when is the Read and Color book club coming back? So for those of you who don't know, I used to run a book club called the Read and Color Book Club. It ran from November 2021 until I think mid to late last year, like before the fall when my mental health kind of took a dive. And the reason I've been sort of putting off talking about this was because at one point earlier this year, I was actually like actively making plans to bring back the book club. I had a lot higher ambitions for it and a lot more that I wanted to do with it. And while I was in the process of doing that, I was going through all of these different things, and I started to realize that I had sort of bit off more than I could chew, which is a common theme for me. But I do think at this point, I am not ready, 1, to bring it back, and 2, I also actually think it may not be the time for it right now. I have some other opportunities, very exciting opportunities coming soon that I think will do some of the similar work that the book club was doing, but in a different way. And I want to see how that pans out a little bit first before committing to bringing back the book club. Let's move on to the next section, which is just about my life. So I have a few questions here. So a lot of you have asked me at multiple points what my curly hair routine is. Yes, we love my curly hair. If you are someone with curly hair like me, like go to a curly hair salon. You will not regret it. That is how I learned to style my hair properly. That is how I started to get better haircuts, and I overall feel it just looks better. I feel better, and I feel more myself as well. That is what I'd recommend. But in terms of products that I use, the shampoo, conditioner, and leave-in that I use are from Love Your Curls. This is the shampoo, this is the conditioner, and then this is the leave-in conditioner that I use. So I use the kinky coily one, but they also have like a wavy curly one, which is like for less tight curls. But these are the products that I use. I also, after the shower, put in another leave-in, which is this one from Curl Shop. It's the buttermilk leave-in conditioner. I try to put like a little bit of this all over my hair just for some extra zhuzh. And then I recently got refills for my gels. That's why these bottles are very new. But I use both a medium hold gel. This is called their butter jelly, but it's basically like a gel. And then I also use their max hold butter styling gel. These are really important for the hair care. Without them, I would not have as defined curls. Absolutely love both Love Your Curls and Curl Shop. And then in terms of these gels, I tend to put a lot more of the medium hold gel, and then I put a little bit of the max hold on top just to get the extra frizz out of the way. Alrighty, so a few of you asked me about my travel plans, if I am planning to travel anywhere this year, and then if I have any countries on my bucket list. One of the countries that has been on my bucket list for the longest time is just the UK, and also France and like Paris. So I'm actually taking a trip this fall at the end of September into October. I'm gonna be staying with a cousin of mine, and I am hopefully gonna be exploring places in England, so like Oxford, Bath, maybe Edinburgh. We still have a lot to plan for that trip, but I have booked my flights, so it's happening. Next question was, what do I like about Toronto? So a lot of you know I am from Toronto. I actually am from like the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area, so it's like the suburbs around Toronto and surrounding it. But I did go to university in downtown Toronto. I went to U of T, which is University of Toronto. I went to the St. George campus. I absolutely loved U of T, and I loved being in the city all 4 of those years, even though I commuted for all 4 of those years. But I did also like work downtown, and I still do work downtown. I typically work from home, but when I do go into the office, it's downtown. So yeah, I just love Toronto, one, because like I've been here my entire life, so I kind of don't know anywhere else that feels quite like home the way Toronto does. I love the diversity of it. I love seeing seeing so many people who look like me. I absolutely love Toronto summers and like patio season. I love the friends that I have, and just generally, like, I don't know, something about it just feels like home. So that's why I love Toronto. Alrighty, the next section is on work and work-life balance. So a lot of you asked like what I do for work, how my work life is, what my full-time job is specifically. Right now, I work for a company that is kind of book adjacent, and I work in product marketing. I kind of got into this job after working in publishing for a few years. I did a couple internships out of university, but in university, I actually studied English and history. So never actually formally studied marketing in any way. And in my experience for both publishing and marketing, your work experience ends up being what's most important versus like formal education. This current job that I'm in with product marketing, I was able to get it because I'd essentially been doing the same thing but with books before. So it was just like kind of switching industries. And overall, I really love my job, to be honest. When I started this job, I was just looking for something that would give me more of a work-life balance, and it's definitely provided that while also giving me like stimulating work to do. So I enjoy my job. I don't think it's my entire life, but it's great to have a consistent job and income. And although I've noodled with the idea of like going full-time with YouTube for a long time, I think I like the consistency of my full-time job too much to let it go anytime soon. The second major question in relation to work-life balance was just a lot of you asking, how do I juggle it all? So how do I juggle work, YouTube, a social life, family, all of that? And how do I know when to like slow down and when to keep going and all of that? So I think the answer to this one can change a lot depending on your circumstances. But for me personally, it's also changed like over the years. I have spent a lot of periods where I burnt myself out to like an incredible degree. I mean, like last fall being one of them. And I'm often kind of not doing great and often really, really stressed, I think. And I think that stress and anxiety has gotten to like a very high point over the past couple of years with my channel growing and just other life things going on. So I wanted to talk about that. And then I've had other periods where one part of my life wasn't as involved, so I had more time for other things. So like when I started this current job, work was less involved, so I had more time for YouTube and social life and other stuff. But then when this job got a little bit busier, it sort of tipped the balance a little bit. So it's just really a balancing act. But personally for me, I typically like have work 9 to 5 every weekday, and then I work on YouTube stuff on the weekends and evenings, and then social life and, you know, family and stuff, like I try to juggle it the best I can. I am a pathological calendar user. I schedule a lot of my social stuff and work stuff into my calendar so I know what's coming up so I can plan ahead accordingly. But I think with the last several months and all of the issues with my mental health and upheavals in my life, I've come to just learn that I need to give myself some grace and some rest. Another thing I think everyone should remember, and that I have taken so long to understand, is sometimes you just need help. And I think although there's a lot of people out there who can like juggle 10 bajillion things out there, sometimes it's hard to do that on your own. So as someone who like really wants to keep their full-time job and has all these other responsibilities, but still wants to like treat YouTube kind of like a job and a business and, you know, see it grow, I personally for the longest time resisted getting any help with my YouTube stuff. And then last fall, I started working with an agency for my brand partnerships, which took a mental load off for me and also just helped me get better sponsorships and more regular ones as well. And then the second thing I've done very recently is hire an editor. So my lovely editor, Lucas, who will be starting editing with me, starting with this video, will be joining my team. And so, you know, helping me out in a big way. And one of the things that I've struggled with over, you know, the past few years is like, although I can have time to film and I'm excited to film or whatever, I struggle a lot with editing. It's not my favorite thing to do. And I think I've just been lying to myself and burning myself out in previous months. So thankfully, Lucas will be helping me edit, and that should hopefully bring you more consistent content and thereby freeing up my time to just like work on more fun video ideas and film more and read more so that I can bring you more consistent videos. Alrighty, now I have a couple questions on writing and sort of like other ventures. So a lot of you asked me how my writing is going. Some of you want to know if I plan on getting published, what genres I write in or would want to get published in, and what I'm working on like currently. Essentially, I've always been a writer and I've always wanted to write and like get published at some point, but I think like the goalpost has changed a lot for me. I wanted to get published like years ago, but I just understood at some point that like like I didn't have the capacity to get there. And I've also struggled to finish writing a full novel for many years. And I think part of that has had to do with the bipolar and just my fluctuating mental state. But to answer the questions, like, yes, I do want to get published at some point, but I'm not putting like a time frame on it. I think I just want to see when I can get to a viable, like, finished product that I personally love and think needs to be out there in the world, and then I will think about publishing. But currently I am working on a sci-fi novel, which I've been working on for several years, but I have been sort of reinvigorated to work on it based off of recent things I've been reading and conversations that I've been having. So I'm excited to jump back into it, hopefully this summer, and get back into working on it a bit more. In terms of publishing and like longevity of like a writing career, like I would love to have a long writing career and write a lot of books, and I have a lot of ideas in different genres, like sci-fi to fantasy to memoir to like literally anything you could think of. So I do want to get to that point at some point. Alrighty, we're getting into questions about my reading, so I'm gonna go rapid fire through some of these. So someone wanted to know what the last 5-star book I read was, and I recently just finished Finding Me by Viola Davis. This is Viola Davis's memoir. Really fantastic. Highly recommend. I've talked about it in a couple videos when I was like in the middle of it, but having finished it, it was just so freaking amazing. Someone asked what my favorite classics are, and I have quite a few. I love Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I love Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Absolutely love Hamlet and a lot of other Shakespeare works, including Measure for Measure, which is also another favorite of mine. And then in terms of like ancient Greek classics, I absolutely love Antigone the play by Sophocles. Someone asked, how would you describe your reading style? I think unsurprisingly, I am a mood reader. It just really depends on like what I'm feeling at the time and what vibe I'm into. I'll read really happy books, but I'll also read a lot of sad books. I'm very, very into bittersweet books, ones that really make you feel all of the emotions. But generally, I just love books that have compelling and flawed characters, ones that have really amazing character arcs and character development. And in recent years, I've generally come to appreciate a lot of different genres. So I'll read across both like literary fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, thriller, romance. I think thriller and romance are the two that I pick up the least. And I do also really love nonfictions a lot more now. I love memoirs and biographies. I've always loved like kind of historical books, and I really enjoy like the occasional nonfiction that is explaining some sort of science or technology concept or whatever in an accessible way. I actually quite enjoy those if I'm interested in the topic. Someone asked, how do I budget for books? I think this is a bit different for me than it probably will be for you, just because I do treat BookTube and YouTube as partly my job. It's like partly a business, so I can like expense buying books. But aside from that, I do try to like minimize my spending if I can, but obviously not very successful. Where I can, I do try to actually borrow a lot of books from the library, ebooks and audiobooks. I have an e-reader, so I do actually read a lot of books on my e-reader, or I'll listen to audiobooks on my phone. And typically actually a lot of the books that I read these days are on audiobooks, so they're very convenient to borrow from the library or get in different subscription services. So I get them from like Rakuten Kobo, I get them from Audible, I get them from Scribd. I have a Scribd subscription. I also am part of the Libro FM influencer program, so I get free audiobook arcs and stuff from them every month. So I listen to a lot of those. And then one thing you should know is that I do actually get free ebooks from my workplace every week. Like I get one free ebook every week. Like I get to choose one. So that also helps. Someone asked, how has your relationship with reading changed since you started a YouTube channel? And they brought up this moment when I had talked about how even reading can sometimes feel like work for me now, which is definitely true. I think since starting BookTube, I did start to approach things a little bit differently. In the initial stages, I started reading a lot of the more popular books that everyone was talking about because everyone was talking about them and I wanted to be one of the people talking about them. And that led me to a lot of books that I didn't particularly love, but that were just like everyone's favorites and popular. And since then, I think I've cultivated a better sense of my own taste in books, and I've come to a very kind of specific type of books that I love, and I think that a lot of you enjoy me recommending to you. But at the end of the day, like reading is still a place of solace for me, so every now and then when I do take a break from it so that I don't feel like it's work, I'll still end up coming back to it because it's what brings me solace and comfort in moments when I'm, you know, not doing well. I just love books. I will never stop loving books, so I don't think that's gonna change. Alrighty, the last section of questions is on on BookTube. So the first one is, what made you get into BookTube? So this is a pretty simple answer. Essentially, I had been watching BookTube for many, many years before I even started my channel back in, I think 2017, 2018-ish is when I got consistent. And essentially I just like really enjoyed watching those videos because I felt like I was, you know, watching friends talk about the books that I was also reading. And so it felt very comforting. And I think for me, when I started my channel, I was going through a very rough period mentally. So I wanted something new to kind of bring me joy and give me a sense of purpose, and also just something that felt fun. And I didn't really put too much pressure on it initially. And then as it started to get more consistent, I started to, you know, make it more into a thing. And I really treated it as like a very serious hobby, and then eventually kind of like a job and business. And I've never regretted it, honestly. Like, BookTube and my YouTube channel has brought me so much joy, so much help in so many areas of my life, both in like getting a job and the money it has made to help me support myself and my family. I can't imagine my life having not started my channel. So I'm grateful for it and for all of you to this day. Someone asked, what are some of the challenges that I've faced while being part of BookTube? For me personally, I would say BookTube in general has very slow growth in comparison to a lot of other niches, which is kind of fine. Like, I never wanted to be super popular or anything, and that was never the intention of starting my channel either. But it can be a little frustrating when you're like putting in a lot of effort into your content and then you're not seeing that growth. But on the flip side, like, I don't feel too upset about this. I really appreciate the genuine growth that I've had in my channel and all the people who have stuck with me for many years. On the flip side, someone asked, what are some of the highlights of BookTube and talking about books online? So there's so many things, and honestly, I've talked a little bit about some of them before, but I just love the idea of like sharing my love of books. Like, I was someone who didn't have many friends in real life who like talking about books, so I love that I get to talk about books, and there's like a bunch of you who will click on a video and watch it and just get excited with me and, you know, talk about it in the comments, and it's just so incredible to me. And like, I thank my stars every day that I decided to do this. Another thing I love about BookTube is just watching BookTube. Like, I have always loved watching BookTube, so even now I still watch a lot of other BookTubers videos, and I love seeing what they're reading and getting new recommendations, and just watching the chaos of, you know, someone really despising a book that I loved and like seeing a different perspective on things. Like, I just enjoy that so much. And then the last two things I will say here is that, one, I love that BookTube, unlike other niches, has allowed me to build this platform and talk about something I love without everything being about me as a person. I am just telling you about books that I love, and you are listening to me about that, and you're, you know, joining in on the excitement, but you are not necessarily concerned about like who I'm dating or like my private life or all of that. Like, that's kind of separate. Like, the content is about the books and not really about me, and I like it that way, and it just makes me happier to connect with you, and I don't feel like I need to put on a play or act a certain way to make you like me. And then of course the final thing I have to say is that the biggest highlight is having people watch my videos and hear a recommendation from me and then go out and read that book or pick up that book or, you know, do that thing. And it just is so astounding that, you know, I have that sort of influence, and also like the fact that someone is finding joy because of something I said. Like, they are discovering a new book that they are in love with because I had recommended it to them. Like, that just makes my heart sing and makes me so happy. And anytime one of you like tags me on Instagram or TikTok or whatever and tell me that you like read a book because of me, it just warms my heart immensely. Someone asked if I have any advice for starting a channel now, and if I have any advice that I wish I knew when I started my channel. I think there's a lot of things I could say here, but I actually have a whole video on how to start a BookTube channel. I did it in, I think, 2021, but I think a lot of the concepts still stand today and still make sense, so I would check out that video. But essentially I would say that if you are thinking about it, just do it. Like, you probably won't regret it, and even if you do, you can delete those videos after, or you can put them on private. Like, there's nothing wrong with starting something and then seeing where it goes. And I would also say that in like the first several videos that you do, try to get, you know, good at the thing that you're doing. Then also try to understand if you are enjoying the thing that you're doing. So if you enjoy it enough to make it like a very fun hobby that you do sometimes as time allows, something that you don't stress about, or do you want to make it into something that is a little bit bigger than that? Do you want to pursue this in a bigger way and make something out of it that will potentially change your life? Thinking about those two types of ways to think about your channel will be really important for how you want to take it in the future. Someone asked a very spicy question of whether booktubers get paid to talk about books. Short answer is yes, but the long answer is technically yes, but no. So yes, we do get paid to talk about certain books in the same way that we get paid for sponsorships to talk about a therapy service shoes or like sunglasses. We do get paid to tell you about a book, but we do not get paid to tell you that the book is good. So we can tell you that, you know, these are the things about the book and this is what it's about and it seems like it's gonna be really fun. But I do not get paid to tell you that I read this and it is an amazing book, 5-star. That would be a lie. The contracts that we do with publishers do not stipulate that. All of your thoughts are your own and you can provide an honest review. Obviously, it's like good practice not to trash talk a book that you had a sponsorship for, but generally, like, we don't have to lie that a book is good. We just have to tell you about the book. And I think readers are just so varied and there's so many people who read a lot of things that I don't particularly usually gravitate towards, so I don't actually feel that uncomfortable about telling you about a book that I particularly wouldn't love just because I'm pretty sure there's someone out there who will. Alrighty, and then the final question that I have for this BookTube section and also for this Q&A in general is how quickly did it take for my channel to grow? So quite honestly, my channel took quite a while. I didn't see much growth in the first couple years of my channel, and then when the pandemic hit in 2020, that is when I had some huge, immense growth. So I think at the end of 2019, I had hit around 10K, and then when 2020 hit and the pandemic and a lot of people were like reading because they were indoors and stuff, my channel kind of shot up during that time and I was at, I think, 50K by like the late summer of 2022. All I remember is like pandemic, I had huge growth. And then from there, it's just been kind of like consistently growing inch by inch, month by month. But generally, I think the rule of thumb that you should think about for growth on YouTube is generally that growth doesn't actually come from consistency most of the time. It actually comes from viral videos. I generally think though, like, you shouldn't feel too bogged down if your growth is slow. Try to see like what popular videos are going around and see if you can adapt those concepts for yourself and make similar-ish content while putting your own spin on it. Alrighty, and with that, those are all of the questions on this ridiculously long Q&A. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you got to learn something new about me. If I didn't answer your question, I really sincerely apologize, but there's only so much I can answer in one video. But if you did send a question, thank you so much. I appreciate you immensely, and I just appreciate all of you for sticking around through all of this, through these several months that have been quite hard, and through all of these years on my channel. I appreciate you so much. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, you can go check out my Instagram, TikTok, or other social media in the description down below if you want to get more regular updates on my reading and what I'm doing, and I will see you guys in my next video. So please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!